I was working in the hospital, so I noticed that I'm interested in helping people because I met some people who are, they have problems and then they came to the hospital. I was in emergency department, so they came to emergency department and then they are suicidal lah. So I thought in that way I wanted to help them cope with their illness. They're having depression, so they said that they are unable to handle the stress. They don't know where to turn to, and then because the feeling is too much, and they decided to take their own life. So actually mental illness, there are biological basis for it. So it's not that the person, simply because the person cannot handle stress and then he decided to do that. Actually it's because of the people with depression, they have a chemical imbalance in their brain because certain neurotransmitters are too high. So these are including what is known as the serotonin, the epinephrine. So because of that, then it produces the symptoms of depression, their mood, they can't feel happy, they have a lot of thoughts about negative thoughts, they don't know how to handle their stress, which cause them to think about suicide. My experience about working in a mental hospital is that I've managed different types of mental illness. Actually, it's not just most people think that mental illness means they call them gila, crazy, but there are more to mental illness than just that. So those there are severe form of mental illness, they are known as schizophrenia. So these are the one that commonly people refer to as crazy. There are also other types of mental illness, including the more common ones are actually depression, anxiety. There's also OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. Usually it's for the public, so they have this stigma that people with mental illness, so they are crazy, means that they are unpredictable. They are afraid, actually the public are afraid of people with mental illness because they think that they may suddenly become violent, they are unpredictable, then become violent, and then they can commit crimes and all that. And so actually it's a wrong perception. I mean there are some, according to the statistics, actually the majority of the crime are actually committed by people who are perfectly normal without any mental illness. Based on the statistics, about only 10% of the crime involve people committed by people with mental illness. So the vast majority of the crime are still by normal people. And another thing is that although if this mental patient, they are actively suffering from their psychosis, for example, they may react violently. That's true, but again, if we need to recognize these signs and brought them to seek treatment before they have this become violent. So usually there's a period of time where they have actually been unwell, but the family members they don't know how to handle it. So they don't know that they actually can seek treatment to help the patient seek treatment. So some of the early signs of mental illness includes, for example, the change of behavior. Usually they will have change of behavior. You already notice that they are not themselves. For example, they start to talk less, they become withdrawn, they refuse to go out of the house, don't want to meet friends or family members anymore, just keep themselves in their room. So that's one of the change of behavior you can recognize. And then secondly, they may have poor sleep, they have difficulty sleeping, and then sometimes you will notice them at night, they are wandering around, they're not sleeping anymore. Other things, it will depend on the type of mental illness. For example, strange behaviors. These are usually will be in patients with schizophrenia. So these people may start talking to themselves. Actually, they have been hearing voices. Okay, so they may directly tell you they hear voices that people that don't exist, or you don't hear it, but only they themselves hear it. So these are the signs that you can recognize. And then they even may have visual hallucination where they see shadows or see spirits around them, and they will tell you that also. and their thoughts, their speech may be different. For example, when you talk to them, when you ask them questions, they may answer a different thing completely out of the topic. So these are actually also disturbances in their brain processes. Due to the mental illness, the brain process become affected. So their speech also became affected. So when you talk to them, they are unable to answer you correctly. The challenges are mainly in the form of patients with the schizophrenia. So sometimes they may be brought to the hospital by the police because they are violent, they are behaving violently outside. Usually because they are not taking any medication, and then sometimes on top of that, due to the lot of availability of the illegal drugs, they took drugs which make their condition worse. So they may be aggressive. So as doctors, we need to be able to know how to handle these aggressive patients. So usually we will need the help from the assistant medical officer also. And together we will have to initially either verbally try to, we call it de-escalate, so to make them calm and then to talk to them nicely. So regarding what's their problem, what provoked them to do to being aggressive. So if that is not working, then we will have to give them the medication in the form of injection. Actually, we have injection antipsychotic, we call it, which will help them to tone down, to become less aggressive and become sedated and control their psychosis. And so usually because of psychosis, they become aggressive. Psychosis means they are having either hallucination or delusion. So that such as hallucinations, such as like hearing voices, commanding them, asking them to do something, which includes something that's bad, or delusion, which they may believe that someone wanted to harm them, and that's why they act in such a way because they want to defend themselves, and they think that they are trying to protect themselves. So all these are actually not true. So that's why it is psychosis, and we give them medication to reduce the psychosis. The other type of patient would be suicidal patients. So for suicidal patients are also considered emergency. These are very challenging also to handle. It's actually students from university, they will even come here feeling suicidal because they've been having like stresses at the school, bullying, and then sometimes even simple things such as like relationship issue, and with like arguments with boyfriend. If they are feeling suicidal and they have attempt, they have active plan to do it, like they will tell you like what are their plans. For example, want to want to slit their wrist and all that. Then in this sort of situation where there's active plan of suicide, we will need to admit the patient. Definitely need to be admitted for observation in the ward. And then we will have to start them on medication like antidepressant. So medication to treat their depression. And then also in our hospital we have services, counseling services. So from counselor and also from psychologists. So they are able to provide the counseling session for them, so that they know how to handle their stress more efficiently, and how to change their thoughts. Instead of negative thoughts, they focus more on their positive thoughts. What are their advantages? To teach them to recognize what are their abilities, instead of just feeling like worthless, just feeling that they are useless. For the media part, I think they can report on the importance of seeking treatment. I think I read news about articles like suicide. I do see them at the end of the article, they do write if for people who are having problems, they can contact Befrienders, and there are other hotlines there available. But maybe they can elaborate more about what kind of problems that these people may be having. So for example, the signs of depression, I think the media can have like a special column where they can write about mental illness, like such as depression, and then what are the signs and symptoms that people can look out for.
reduce stigma is the only way to reduce stigma is actually through education. By way of the media, they can report and they can write like articles about mental illness. And then other things is like through the government level, and through hospital. For example, our hospital, we organize open day where we invite the public to come and visit our hospital. So during that open day, we put up posters and booths, so we can help to first of all screen for mental health among the public. From the posters, they can learn about the various types of mental illness. So besides that, we have also organized what we call the mental health run. So through this kind of events, we can actually raise awareness among the public to reduce the stigma.